December 12th meeting of the Village Council. If you will rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing, please. You know, I had the opportunity to have lunch with one of the pastors that shared one of the indications with us this year, yesterday. And in talking with him, he said that he was humbled that we would consider asking God to start our meetings and to ask for his blessings in our meetings. And I thought, we've just taken it for granted, I guess, for so many years. That's one thing that we do, but I think it is very, very important. Reverend Thaddeus Finney is with us tonight. He comes from us from 704 Church via California, I guess, back in 2015. You moved, you became an NC resident?
Yeah,
and is now the pastor at 704, and we're honored to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing the invitation with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it from here.
Sure.
Awesome. I wrote the prayer, so I'm not going to ramble. I do want to say first, our church, we talk about a passage in Jeremiah 29:7. 29:11 is the one that everybody knows. The 29:7 it says, "Seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I've carried you into. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper." So, whatever your faith is, our church prays for Indian Trail and Wesley Chapel and Matthews, all the cities that are going to make up. And I want to say I'm humbled, honored. I was telling David earlier, this is often a thankless job. And I'm appreciative of you guys and girls for the role that you play. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the privilege of being here today. I thank you for this assembly as they serve the city of Wesley Chapel. Pray, Father, that as they discuss their agenda and craft policies for the city, that they'll always put the people's interests above their own. Remind us all, Father, that whatever position we're in, whether it's a pastor or a member of this town council or its parents, business people, neighbors, or friends, that we are in this position not to be served, but to serve others. Just as Christ, who's King, came not to serve, but to serve, and ultimately died on the cross to save us. Holy Spirit, would you give this group wisdom? Would you give them discernment? Would you give them unity as they seek to serve this city and its people? In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
I think we just have one person. Gary, if you want to come to the podium, state your name and address.
Okay. Larry Davis, 2232 Lincolnshire Lane in Waxhaw. Live in the courtyard of Wesley Chapel. Madam Mayor, members of the council, stand Paul. In line with your update on the courtyard's trees scheduled for this meeting, I respectfully offer the following. You are aware that EPCON is planning to replace approximately 150 trees in our community to meet NCDOT requirements. The original community plan approved by the village specified a uniform planting of 4-inch caliber trees. These trees have been successfully planted and survived over the several years of development. EPCON now proposes to mix several species of considerably smaller 2-inch caliber trees, which are not consistent with the original plan. We are concerned that this will adversely impact our property values if it is not planned and managed properly. We therefore ask you to consider the following. 1. EPCON be required to submit for review by all concerned a formal written plan for replacing these trees with the appropriate size, including updated plat to reflect the changes. EPCON be required to post a performance bond to ensure 1. The new trees are properly cared for during the 1-year warranty period, that any trees that do not survive during the warranty period be replaced, and that all damages to our irrigation system, associated landscaping, and sidewalks caused by the tree replacement are repaired to our satisfaction. You should be aware that EPCON has asked us to meet with them tomorrow on this subject. And I'll stick around for any questions later.
Anybody else want to comment? So that brings us to additions, deletions, and adoption of agenda. Council, I do need to remove the minutes for the, I guess I need to take it off, right? Closed and open.
I think just the open.
Okay, I need to remove the open meeting minutes. There's something that we did not put and we need to add on to it. So I'll move those minutes to, I'll get them edited to you for January. We just had some confusion there. And then for the December, for the item number E, adopting the 2023 regular meeting schedule, we just need to add December 4th in there because it's an election year, and that is where we do the first meeting to transfer the change of the guard, so to speak. So that we'll add December 4th to that regular meeting schedule. So again, that's removing part of item A, the open meeting minutes, and I will get those to you edited for our January review and approval. And then editing item E for December, to add December 4th. Does anyone else have any other edits or additions? Oh, yeah. And I need to add a second closed session, book at 15B if you want, a closed session for personnel. Anything else?
Motion to approve the votes, motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Then do I have a motion for the consent?
We have to vote on the agenda first.
Sorry. No. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion? In favor?
And now motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that brings us to the planning board report.
I guess I'm assuming this privileged, so please bear with me if I'm not succinct and I'll hop in, please. We had a quorum, so the meeting was held on November 28th. Went through our normal procedures. The large portion of the meeting was the discussion of the proposed rezoning that we've been looking at and that Ron brought to us to consider. There was quite a bit of discussion on certain pieces of it. The schools and some of the roundabout information was pretty easy to go through and to chip through. Some of the major discussion that we had was some of the other parcels, which will come to you. We did vote on it. Our council member added some comments that allowed us to consider some other points. Then that was discussed fairly heavily. But we did vote on it and it did pass. So you should be getting that, I would imagine, fairly soon. Is that correct, Ron?
Yes.
Okay. There was really nothing else discussed. We know we have conservation subdivision potentially coming up in the future that we'll have additional thoughts and comments and discussion on. Do you have questions or concerns? Ron, is there anything else that I've forgotten?
No, that was pretty much the extent of our discussion. But they were very thorough in their review of the 6 rezonings, and not unanimous on all of them.
Nope.
But very thoughtful discussion.
We gave great consideration to the reason for the change to be consistent with the comprehensive plan in regards to the future land use plan, consistent with as the village neighborhood in some instances, and then consistent with commercial areas. And the discussion was rather robust on that particular piece, and then consistent with low density residential in those components as well. So, all right, you good? All right, thank you.
since our last council meeting, I have had an email from Karen Partee asking again about the bank property, about subdividing that parcel off. So maybe it's back on again after bidding off again. I responded to her and had a couple questions for her and have not heard back from her yet. But those things seem to be moving pretty slowly. On Friday, we got a revised final revision to plans for adding a second drive-through lane at Chick-fil-A, and they're going to issue the permit for that tomorrow. So you'll probably see some construction activity out there fairly soon. Aside from that, had a revision to a minor subdivision over on, what's the name of that? One that was previously done that they swapped some land around to allow for some better access for Plilo Road. There was a 3-lot subdivision over there that created some issues with neighbors that were using their property, and so they sold them some land so they could continue having the access over there. So got that straightened out and had a discussion with an engineer representing property owners beside the farm garage that they're considering submitting a conditional zoning application for that property. Had a discussion with her at my office last week.
Which property?
The property at the intersection of Newtown and Byron Road there, where near the farm garage is on the corner. There's an old house there. They are potentially going to ask to rezone that property. Nice long discussion with their engineer. And I spoke to the representatives or the owner and one of their colleagues maybe about a year ago about it as well. But they seem to be intent on moving forward with something.
Is that all in the village, that land?
Yes.
Okay.
The parcel at the shopping center, why would they inquire about subdividing it?
They might be selling it to the bank. I don't know. There wouldn't be an inherent reason from the village's perspective to need to subdivide internally there. So I would imagine it would be for the sale of the property to either the developer or the future occupant of the property. But they own most of they used to. Target's on its own land. Fifth Third was going to be on its own land. I don't know how common it is for them to sell off. It seemed that their intent was to keep all of it, but sometimes different tenants have different requirements for ownership.
Any further questions for Vaughn? All right, thank you, Vaughn. Thank you, Sharon.
Oh, and I also have a rough or an initial, after some revisions, almost sketch plan for I think it's about a 10-lot subdivision on about 20 acres off of Cuthbertson Road that would be done under conservation standards. It's way back in the back. It's pretty far off the road. They would have to build a new road through some property they own to get there, but it's pretty low density and looks fairly promising in terms of the use of the property.
Would it be on septic?
I'm sorry?
Would it be on septic?
Yes.
Yeah, just speaking about septic and everything else, I know that when you did the maps and everything with the comprehensive plan, there was a lot of areas designated, probably not like prime location for septic.
Yes.
Has that factored into any of these decisions the developers made?
The soil maps are based on the general nature of each of the soil types that are identified, which are done by a sample survey, essentially. They don't, when the developers, when they're doing their due diligence, they will have a soil scientist or a geotechnical engineer go out and actually evaluate the site, take core samples to see if they can identify, even if the soil is a generally bad type of soil, there could be inclusions of better soils in them, or enough of the bad soil to be able to, do the type of system they want to do. And so apparently, people have been finding some locations recently where they feel that there are opportunities to do septic systems in town, which is really the only way to move forward with any kind of appreciable residential development, or any kind of residential development this time.
Along that minor subdivision, does it access through Hutchinson Road?
The one I was just speaking of, the 10 lot, it would have there's an existing kind of farm access road there. They would be using essentially that, improving it to a public street standard, and creating it, going through driveway permitting with NCDOT.
Is the TIA required?
It would not be required because it's too few lots. NCDOT would evaluate their permit application for site distance and things of that nature.
Cool.
Any questions for Bob? All right, thank you, Bob. All right, that brings us to our finance officer report.
Okay. You have the November financial reports, and I changed things around a little bit with the ARP money, and I like how it's set up now. I think it's the most correct. We still have $305,456 restricted for ARP, and that shows in the cash, and it also shows in the liability. The other money, the $252,169, is a transfer into the general fund. That's money that was general fund expenditures that were recouped, shall we say, and or close to getting the next 100 and on page 4 of the budget report, the second one, the law enforcement from April 2022 to March 2023. I wrote the check today for the last quarter of that, so then we'll be able to recoup that money into as a transfer into general fund. As far as other things during the month, the audit fees we did pay our progress invoice on, and the audit has been submitted, and we will have it next month. And John has spent most of the money for the landscape repair behind stage. He spent $2,738 out of the $3,000. That's about all I have. The other thing I have is the inventory, if you want to get into that.
So we need to review the list, take off the items that we can no longer find.
Well, the thing is that there's specified ways of disposing of things. I included the 2016 inventory because that was the last time it had been done, and at that point, council had directed me to file stolen property reports with the deputy on everything that was missing. There's items there, like the highlighted yellow and red and black items. Just because things are missing, it's up to council to decide what they want to do with it. Are they okay with just saying it's missing? We're fine with it. We'll just take it off, or I don't know what you want to do with it.
Council?
Several of my rock have been missing since 2016.
Some are. The gas leaf blower was missing in the 2016 inventory. Chainsaws.
Chainsaws are both there, or all there.
Well, when were they there?
Since John started as the park maintenance person.
Okay, well, Amy's saying that she couldn't find them when she took an inventory.
I've See, I've had eyes on both of them, plus the new one we purchased. We have a total of 3 chainsaws in the shipping container. And John confirmed that last week with Amy.
I asked Amy to check with Mike and with John, and I think at the end she added her email with them. John said to check with Mike, and Mike said he returned it to John.
And they're there.
Okay, but unless we see them, how do we know that they're there? That's the whole purpose of an inventory, is to
Right, I
confirm
agree.
physical.
You've got a council member and an employee saying that they're there. If you want more than that,
I think she asked for a picture.
Where are they, Mike?
well,
Where are they?
in the storage container at work.
And why did she see both of them?
I have no idea they're there.
When was the last time you put eyes on them?
John and I both looked at them on Thursday.
Okay.
We went over this whole list.
But did y'all circle back with Amy? Because the last thing I saw, Amy had all the things missing.
I went over the list with Amy, then John went over the list with Amy.
On last Wednesday, Amy sent the email, and she had your comments, and then she said, I will check with John on the rest, but I don't have anything from her checking with John on the rest.
So it doesn't sound like we can actually close this out until we get Amy's final notes all, get everything in this document cleaned up to reflect what really is there or not there, and then we can make a decision. So should we table this for January? Sure. And we'll just tell Amy we want the final version of her document by our January council packets. All right, so table that to January. All right, any further questions for Cheryl on the finance report? Okay, that moves us to the question rec report.
You know, you see we didn't have much on the agenda this time. Give you guys a break. Again, appreciate the council support this year. The Coco and Carol's event went very well. Considering, again, last minute things that happened, Cheryl had been checking regularly the deputy report. We had four in the 3 to 4 weeks before. And then this week, last week I should say, went down to 2. We changed the offered amount and it stayed at 2. So, of course, when both deputies showed up, we put them out on crossing people and everything was fine, safety and all. We just didn't have someone at the front gate the whole time. We estimate there was between, I would say, 650 to 750, somewhere around that neighborhood. People, we did check the people coming into the gate. That was about 450 to 500, and then we had some coming in from the regular gate. There was no issue with parking. The train did have a minor breakdown, but got running again. We had running around the lake. The Weddington Elementary School, I'm trying to think what to call it, the director, I guess, for the choir. Would love to stay involved and engaged in future events, so we'll see when it fits and with their schedule and everything else. We're getting good feedback from the other schools as well, as far as they'd like to participate. The nights worked out great, with a minor revision, which was just, we ended up putting them on stands because they work best in a fully upright position. When we were hanging them, they were slightly tilted and not quite, but we tested them beforehand, so it was a small change. The food vendor did well. Hungry Howie's, he was fine. Even though it was an early event, it was 10 to 12, remember, but did well. The Grinch was running around, stayed away from me till the very end, so that was good. No, I'm just kidding. Chad was the bridge, which I appreciate, and he participated in the story time that Julie did down on the amphitheater at the latter part of the event, and that was nice. So all in all, Amanda did a great job as well, always does, and so it's just a very well-attended family event. Kids were having a blast. Santa got a bunch of hugs, so that was cool. I'll take the hugs. And
260 hot drinks, whether it was cider or
all the hot chocolate went, all the s'mores went. The Boy Scouts did a wonderful job watching the fire. They were there monitoring and keeping the kids safe. And okay, I don't think I missed anything. No. So it was a very, very good event. We do have a new applicant. I think you have that on the agenda separately. And just want to leave you with a little bit of, I won't say it's Christmas humor, but it's humor. I saw this item online, and so I grabbed it, and it's, we've had, of course, under what's the word? The importance of, obviously, the dam decisions that still have to be made, but we have the beaver issues, and, everything with the events is always a project. So Santa's going to do a little show and tell. Switch to another damn project. One damn project after another.
What is the current status of taking care of the beaver who's damaging trees and causing the clogs in the drain?
I need to get with John and get that ordered.
Not this guy. He's very happy.
Exactly.
You know, we approved the budget for that last month or the month before, but when we ordered for that.
I did also I forgot to mention our budget, of course. With only having 2 deputies and not 4 and everything else. I think we were right around 2. I didn't have the final number yet because of all the instant hot chocolates and stuff like that, but we were probably right around $2,000, maybe even a little under. Even with the $1,100 training. So we did well. The event did well. We had every Jim and his wife were doing the hot chocolate, s'mores. I talked about Julie. Pam was running the Wesley Chapel tent. Pat was at the entrance checking the people in, coming in from the gate side, the entrance gate from Southbrook. So
John and Wayne did a great job with the sound system.
John, thank you. John and Wayne with the sound system, and also Wayne with being the MC for the event. It's for the village, it's for the community. It gives us an opportunity to get people out and
Lots of families.
enjoying it. Lots of families.
The truck was the other last minute hitch, but
There's 2 events.
it's a new world. It's a new world. You can't count on anything. You order things and everybody is running on a slim margin and they don't have a truck. They don't have a deputy.
For those of you who don't know, we made a reservation on the truck. Just because you have a reservation doesn't necessarily mean they're going to hold your truck.
Well, whether they don't get it back or damaged or whatever, but then they gave us a bigger truck with a lift gate.
We got lucky and that was just the morning of. He said, I happened to get a new truck.
Yep, and so they gave it to us the same rate, so it was fine. We had enough help and everything else to get the sound system down there and back. And cool. That was really all I had to report, unless you all have something for me.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate it.
Thanks for always bringing cheer.
Right.
Try. I've been
Where can I get me one of them shirts?
Amazon. What else? Actually, it's true.
We need to appoint
So
the,
I need to appoint Gordon Oliver to the Parks and Rec Committee. Be a regular member, correct?
Yes.
All right, so appointed.
Thank you.
And this is Mr. Oliver back here, right?
Yes,
Everybody
ma'am.
wave at our new Parks and Rec member. Thank you for being willing to serve.
I remember
Yes,
you
ma'am.
at the meeting, at
Yeah.
the mayor's coffee with the mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
You are a Marine.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate your service and your service to Parks and Rec.
Well, look forward to helping out and wherever I'm needed, and it sounds like I'm needed a lot, so we'll move from there.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That brings us to the public hearing for the TA 2022-04 to amend section 156.160 of the zoning ordinance for temporary signs. So I would like to open the public hearing. Is anybody going to speak? Shall close the public hearing? And then Bob, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In October, the Planning Board reviewed a potential amendment to the sign regulation section of the zoning ordinance regarding some concerns about the village being able to effectively advertise events that it is sponsoring, holding, town hall, park, wherever they might be. The current regulation doesn't distinguish between signs the village erects, temporary signs the village erects versus signs that Walgreens might want to erect or some other entity in town. And the thought behind it was that this is really an artificial limitation. The comprehensive plan has some thoughts about encouraging more effective communication between the village and its residents about opportunities for community gatherings and other events that are going on. And so in response to that, we proposed an amendment that would add the following, stating that signs owned and erected by the Village of Wesley Chapel are exempt from limitations on the number of times that temporary signs may be displayed and limitations on the duration of display established in the general regulation about temporary signs. There is currently, say, Walgreens, again, for instance, wants to put up a sign that exceeds the general small sign requirement, a banner perhaps, then it could do so for 30 days at a time, essentially 4 times per calendar year. This would allow the village to go beyond that and erect as many larger banner type signs as it would like to, without limitation to how long they are up or without limitation to the number of times that they are displayed on any particular piece of property, giving the village a better ability to communicate critical messages about its events and other happenings in town to the public. The planning board did vote unanimously to forward this to you, and they did adopt a consistency statement. In doing so, it says the proposed amendment is consistent with guiding principle 8 of the Village of Wesley Chapel Comprehensive Plan, robust civic engagement, which states that we will continue to foster a sense of pride and ownership in our community by ensuring that residents have frequent opportunities to both participate in the village government and to build relationships with other residents through community events and organizations.
So council, do you have any questions regarding this? Or the text amendment, ordinance amendment? No? So do we have a motion?
Motion to accept TA 2022-04.
Through ordinance 2022-19?
With a statement of consistency as provided by our plan.
Second. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? All right, so that brings us to the 25th anniversary of Village Incorporation. I know Deb wanted to speak about this a little bit.
Yeah, 25th anniversary, I think, is a big deal. And to celebrate our town, our village, is, an opportunity. There's a lot of different things that we can do. For example, we could have, as a writer, we could do a 4-part series for the EJ, and the EJ would run it, about like the history of the village and the event itself, the 25th anniversary event. Interview longtime residents about how, the way it used to be, just something that sort of accentuates. And of course, all the news media would get it, but I know the EJ would run it as a series. we could do like, did you know on Facebook? Did you know that our dam's, is whatever, high hazard? I mean, no, I'm not saying that's negative, but I mean, just did you know this about the village? Or did you know that about the village? Have to come up with some stuff. A lot of times when you see like towns doing celebrations or stuff, you'll see these banners they have on flagpoles or not flagpoles, but posts. Posts. We could do something like that. I don't know what the cost would be, but just some sort of that says celebrating 25 years of progress or whatever, 25 years of awesomeness. I don't know. The elementary schools and all the schools we could get involved by having like a drawing contest in the elementary schools, with some topic like what's your favorite part of the village. And the older schools, like the middle school or the high school, we could even get those involved with, writing. And this wouldn't be thousands of them, like their journalist department, classes could do stories about the village and whatever topic. I mean, I don't know. And then we could review them here. We could have that part of an event that we would have, which I'd love to see us have a 25th anniversary event on July 15th or somewhere around there. And we could incorporate those drawings, and we could incorporate the writing contests and stuff. And if we want to pick a winner of those, we can even have them read those out at some point. I'd like to see have some sort of 25th anniversary memorabilia, coffee mugs or fountain pens or something that would, commemorate the anniversary. You guys may know of other things, that we could do. And I think that is about, and I'd like to hear your thoughts and inputs, something you can think of that might be good. But I really think that we need to make it a big deal, because 25 years or 25th anniversary is a big deal. So
These are good ideas. Thank you for brainstorming them and thinking of how you can involve so many other groups and everything. And I like the idea of some sort of contest with the schools. Other school will be out at the time, so maybe it's something that they can do before school's out.
yeah, because this would be a year-long celebration.
Okay.
So we could start this in January, February. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not saying do it all in July,
Okay.
but
And so I like that frame of better, because I think it would be nice to have some sort of event on the 15th, although I think that's the thing when we have a council meeting. But the other thing I think about is how hot it is in July.
mm-hmm.
But it would be really nice if we could do a park event when the weather's nicer that is for the village celebration. Where it would be cooler
Yeah.
and everything. So we could do the real the official, some of the parks on the 15th of July, but then, do the big parade part for the town at the park is our event for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. I don't know what we do, but
Well, I mean,
Park committee think of entertainment.
I'd be happy to. I mean, we could have choir sing. We could have, we could have the VFW come and do. I mean, there's lots of things. The color guards.
Now, a lot of it depends on the timing,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't want to conflict with something else that's going on.
Right.
But there's always fun games and long games kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, encourage people to come out.
I mean, we could actually do some of this stuff in the spring, like in May before the school's let out, and then say, this is the year of the 25th anniversary, and just make it instead of saying, it's not here yet. Just
2023, the 25th anniversary.
That's right.
I like that.
So it would be the whole, and I'd be happy to work with whomever, to come up with some plans and stuff. Actually do the logistics of it.
Let's come to the next Parks and Rec meeting.
Okay, when is it?
Fourth Thursday.
We got fourth Thursday each month.
At 6:30.
Fourth.
Fourth December, right?
I'll let you know, Doug. We'll make sure.
It's January. They're done for
Oh,
December.
they're done for December.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
And I know you talked about like communications committee.
Yeah.
Anything else? Is that something we should go ahead and think about having a joint meeting of the two committees?
That'd be awesome. We've been trying to have the communications committee join the Parks and Rec committee meeting.
But if there's a quorum, we got to call a joint.
Right. I'm just saying call a special meeting of the two, not to be not to be one of the regular meetings if you have other stuff to do, but maybe as a way to kind of get them involved.
They've been talking about it for a few months as to what to do. And I think that there's still some uncertainty as to what their roles are. I know the committee was formed as an opportunity to communicate about the town. With this event, I don't know. I know that the council has to come up with the ideas. The council has to come up with the funding because this isn't going to be free. I mean, so.
But you mentioned like things with articles and posts and finding facts. These all sound like communication committee things to me that they could be involved in.
Oh yeah, definitely, because they want to be involved very much so.
Interesting fact, I was looking through the comprehensive plan, and they talked specifically about the fact that over 60% of the houses in Wesley Chapel are from 2000 or younger. Built before 2000 is only 40%. The other 60% is new construction.
Yes, things like that. That report, that 25th.
And we already have posters.
Yeah, that would come in handy with some of the Did You Know stuff. We could do like once a week, maybe. Did you know?
We have the history book, but unfortunately, the man that wrote that history book has died since then. So
we still have
it's not available.
the history. We have a video that was done about the history of the town. So,
Very cool.
but we've got lots of opportunities.
So what should our action step be as a council to go ahead and encourage planning our Parks and Rec and communications committee to have a joint meeting as early as possible?
I also think we as a council need to commit that we will come up with some significant funding for this event that is separate from the Parks and Rec regular budget. That is a celebration budget. It doesn't seem fair to the Parks and Rec committee to say, we want you to run an event for us as a celebration. No, by the way, it's going to use your money. But the other events you thought you might want to have.
It might be a good idea to form a special committee with some of the Parks and Rec and some of the communications folks working together, because it can't be all communications or all Parks and Rec, or I think it's going to have to be.
You have to watch your numbers.
Pardon?
Well, you'll have to have minutes and.
You can do that, but you can't have a quorum of either committee. Otherwise, it's also a committee meeting. So you can do
Just
that.
like
2 to 1.
Two.
2 Parks and Rec, 2 communications, and 1 council rec.
Yeah, you could do that.
well, I'd be happy to.
I think that would be the council, right?
There you go.
And then you would pick the other two at your joint meeting.
Yeah.
And you do have to be careful. Also, we had a. Trying to think when we did our 10th anniversary. I think we had a separate committee, but you have to be careful. Every time you have a quorum of them talking, it's a meeting, so they can't just chat it up.
And if you guys come up with any other ideas, what do you think about memorabilia? What do you think about something? I mean, do you have any ideas about that? All I could think of was pens and cup and mugs. My brain didn't go any further than that.
We had talked one time like T-shirts, which I know that that's starting to get into some money, but the idea maybe it's something that it's like it's a discounted rate or something that we could actually sell them as opposed to giving away T-shirts to everybody or something. But that would seem to be a cool idea that people could then wear and people would see. You guys kind of advertise it with your pin. Usually nobody else sees it. Coffee cup, they'll just get donated to Goodwill.
I'll keep mine forever.
If you sell T-shirts, then we gotta get into the sales tax collection business. So maybe it would be better to give them away. And maybe as a prize for something or to encourage.
If we have like a 25th celebration event, we could maybe give them out then.
And I really liked your idea about banners, kind of like Christmas decorations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know, if they come up and they're just hanging off the pole, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Something's like 25th anniversary at the town entrances, and if you can pick a couple, as opposed to a
How would that work? We don't own the land.
The 25th anniversary is usually silver, so we could think about putting together.
Property owners.
Even if we just did it at the intersection, you know, just
Property owners or electric companies or.
Poles.
So, Deb, you'll organize a joint meeting in the new year with the two committees and try to form you a.
What are meetings? What are the groups called if you form a special little work group to do stuff?
Ad hoc. It's a committee.
It is ad hoc.
Committee. You could come back to council and propose these would be the members of the committee, maybe.
Okay.
That would be a good start.
What about a financial amount? How are we going to figure that out?
Depends on what it is.
I think you're going to have to go out and say, hey, I want these silver signs, and I want them to say this, and I think this is the design I want, and just see what that's going to cost. And then we go, okay, can we afford 40? Can we afford 40? You know, and then I think at some point it's going to be legal faith for us to just say, here's some money, because there's no way we're going to get to every penny, but we should be able to get within $1,000. You know, in my head, I'm thinking we're probably looking at 10 grand at least.
What's that again?
I said we're probably looking at 10 grand.
Wow.
None of that's going to go to me, though, right?
I'm sorry, council members don't get paid for their service in that way. No, I mean, when you start thinking about the signs.
Memorabilia
and an event at the park.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
other advertisements and everything else. Prizes if you do a drawing contest or writing contest or. I'm just saying. And, oh, by the way, and nothing's cheaper.
No, not anymore for sure. All right, so Deb, you're good on the path forward?
I am. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you for doing it.
All right. So, move on. Okay, Vaughn, comprehensive plan implementation.
I think, as we discussed, at the last meeting, since the planning board is not meeting this month, then we're going to pick things back up in January, and I believe that our next task at hand is to look at the conservation subdivision standards, unless there is some other direction from the council.
So, we're going to go to the update on the courtyards and AdCom trees.
I got my update from Gary.
Yeah. I guess, let us know how your meeting goes tomorrow.
Okay?
I don't know, that's the email that I sent was the last information that I think we have.
I think personally we can say whether we would support the basic things that he's asking for. My notes here talked about the warranty. If they're going to plant trees, I think that's great, but I think they should, I would support personally that they warranty the trees and that they share a plan with the residents prior to any work being done. I think that's reasonable. Whether Epcot thinks it's reasonable or not is a different story, but
So what really is the village's role in defining a requirement?
well, we caused
this. No, we did not.
No, we did. Actually, we did. Our tree save ordinance declared you have to put X number of trees in for X number of trees.
But we didn't cause it. We told them, you can remove a few lots and do the right amount of trees. And they said, no, this is AdCom's fault. It is not the village whatsoever.
Right. They made this decision on how to fulfill that requirement. It is DOT's obligation to make sure appropriate trees and other things are planted to not destroy the road, because goodness knows you're going to go.
And AdCom did not get their permit for those trees. So it is not our fault.
Right.
And we did
So
not.
that's why I question really what is our scope of authority even within any of this.
And we went from 4-inch to 2 when our forester told us that the 2-inch trees survive better. So that's where that has come from, because I think we just wanted to give the trees the best shot.
I would suggest that that is probably something that was planted by EPCON, no pun intended.
No, that
They planted,
No, but yeah,
they
this,
put in 4-inch trees.
Yeah.
They've been putting in 4-inch trees since we lived there. All of a sudden, 4-inch trees won't survive. I don't believe that.
no, this came. This was
I spoke to the arborist, and the arborist did say, the younger the tree, the better the chance it has to survive.
right.
The problem that we have with it is that you are, in the plat that was approved, the plat called for 4-inch trees.
Yeah, the type of tree that was required for all intents and purposes was a large maturing tree, which at 4 inches, a large maturing tree is much younger than a small flowering ornamental tree is at 4 inches. Keith talked to me about it. He said that generally those types of species that he had gotten from Russ, who had gotten from DOT, that when they got to 4 inches, they were not going to grow a whole lot more at that point. And so, not being an arborist or professional tree person myself, I only know what I've been told. And we pay Keith, I defer to his expertise on those types of matters. And the requirements, my understanding via what I've been told by folks here is that the wound up with the large maturing trees in the right of way as a means of satisfying another requirement, which really wasn't the purpose. If these were big lots with big setbacks and room to plant big trees, and things might have worked out a little bit better, but they weren't. Unfortunately, and maybe EPCON had planned to be able to skip town by the time anybody figured anything out. I don't know. Who knows?
I think that a goodly number of the trees that we have are not planted in the strip. Frankly, if you drive down the street, you'll see a lot of them are set back on the other side of the sidewalk. Why they put them where they put them, we don't know. I will say that when you look at the plat, which I look at as an official document that has been stamped and approved, as a minimum, that document needs to be changed and updated, because that is the document that we're working with. I understand the argument about the size of tree, and I spoke to other arborists who say the same thing. The trees that you're talking about planting have a better chance of surviving. We certainly don't want a whole lot of dead trees. He also, both Keith and the other arborists, said considerable effort is going to be required to maintain these trees during the first year. He said they will have to be hand watered, they'll have to be properly treated, they're going to take a lot of attention. Our community is not prepared, nor do we want to, support an EPCON mistake that they didn't do properly. Our feeling is that this is EPCON's responsibility. It's EPCON's responsibility to make sure that the trees survive. It's EPCON's responsibility to make sure that they do whatever has to be done. And we are not going to pay our landscaper to take care of it. We are already paying, our biggest part of our budget is our landscape budget. And to add to that, the care and feeding of about 150 trees is, because EPCON made a mistake, is unreasonable. I don't have as much of a problem with the size of the tree, but we do have a problem, and this is why we've asked for a plan, of how it's going to look when we get done. So this has sort of been a moving target. We only found out about this last month. I know they've been working on it a lot longer, but from our point of view, we are not as hard over about a 4-inch caliper tree. We are concerned about what was approved, and certainly if we want to change it, the documentation ought to be changed to support it. It's almost like the plat is, this is the plan. This is what you need to do. If you want to change it, then get it changed. But that's not our responsibility.
When does the village require a change in the plat for changing trees?
I mean, this is the same thing as somebody cutting down a tree in the right of way on 84 and putting it.
We're talking about 150 trees.
Cutting down 150 trees on 84. And this is the maintenance of public right of way that's been dedicated to the public. It has not been accepted for maintenance by anyone yet. The rights of anyone to work in the right of way, I don't. Maybe George can opine about that. This is kind of a fuzzy situation. The developer doesn't really own them. Each property owner has an interest in the right of way. They're trying to replace trees so that they can have something that NCDOT will then accept, relieving the developer of their, which I guess responsibility to the homeowners of maintaining the road and maybe to the village of maintaining the road until such time as it's accepted by NCDOT. But it's not our village.
It's not your
road. It's not the state's road yet. It's the public's road. It's the collective
developer's road. When I talked to the NCDOT as far as turning over the roads, they made it very clear it is the developer's responsibility to petition to the state to turn over the roads. You required a bond to make sure that the roads were engineered properly. And in the final checkout, as far as the petition, they discovered that EPCON never asked for the permits required to plant the trees where they planted them. So they got a down check on that, and from NCDOT's point of view, they would like to not have any trees there.
That's right.
So from our point of view, our property values are affected by a mistake that they made. But if we're going to replace the trees, we understand the limitations that are associated with that. But at the same time, we don't want to have to take on a large financial burden to make up for their mistake. Now, when you look at what is the look of the community, after you go through the community and you have all of a sudden a bunch of half-sized trees, we've got to figure out how to plant them so that the community looks good. If you look at Marvin, for example, they've got the cherry trees, what look like cherry trees, planted along their streets. They look great. They're all the same size. They're all uniform. That's what the community is pushing. I think that I don't know what is driving the variety, but most people think that it will look like a mishmash of trees that were planted. So from our perspective, we are favoring, I think they're saying, the cherry tree as the tree of choice. But we are also very concerned about the burden that will be required to make sure these trees survive through their warranty period. And we also, where all those trees have to be planted is where our irrigation system is. There is no question that the irrigation system will be damaged in the process. So, as we have experienced, we need to have something that holds their feet to the fire. And I point to the sand filters. I am sure they would not be doing what they're doing had you not had the bonds. Considerable work is being done on those to get them to the point where they're supposed to be ready for inspection as advertised by October last. And they're still not ready. So we're in a position to say, I'm sure that EPCON would like to be, to us never having found out about this, but I think they finally got to a situation where they had to tell us. And now we're in a position where we'd like to at least have something to say about it. And we're asking for your support. And from the point of view that this is what this village is going to, what our community is going to look like when it's done.
Bill Ortez, remember he was with Duke Power, he's an arborist with Duke Power, that's what he does, he's in charge of the trees and all that. And he suggests certain types of trees along the power line areas that don't grow big, and then he lists the
This isn't power line though, this is along their driveways.
Oh, I thought you said it was along the road with the,
There's no power line.
They're
underground.
oh, okay. Never mind.
I mean, I think courtyards requiring a plan from them is a good idea.
Mhm.
I will be interested to see how your meeting goes tomorrow.
Well, you can be sure we'll share whatever we have with y'all. We've been doing that so far. Up until now, we've not been involved in all this decision, which is also part of the problem.
I would say from personal experience, I've been told not to have all of the same kind of tree, like in a row, because if one gets hit by disease or anything else, you can take out all of them and you end up with a gaping hole and you're starting all over again. Whereas if you have some sort of mix that's selected to look good together, if something happens to one, it shouldn't wipe out all of it. So you would still have some of your, aesthetics or whatever, buffering or whatever it might be. So I personally think the cherry trees look great, but just saying, there might be other considerations there.
Well, we'll see what comes to the meeting tomorrow. And I'll let you know how it came out. I'll send you all the memo on the meeting and the results of the meeting. And we'll see what goes from there. We'd like to get this done, but we'd certainly like to know what's going to happen before it gets started.
It's not unreasonable.
No, it's not unreasonable to ask, don't you know?
As I say, the problem is they would like to plant these trees and expect our irrigation system, which is currently shut down, to take care of all the necessary watering. As Keith has indicated, these trees have to be handled each one at a time, hand watering. The irrigation system we have, even though it's off, even if it were on, is inadequate for these trees during the first year.
What about like water bags? Did Keith say anything about that?
I don't know how they plan to do it, but that's, I don't want it to be our responsibility.
No, but I'm thinking about the water bags that didn't only have to be refilled at a certain frequency or something as opposed to.
I'd leave that up to the landscaper and have him figure out how best to do it.
This might be a question.
That's their business, and if they know they have to warranty the trees, maybe they'll be making sure they get the best treatment that they can, so they don't have to be paying for their care. I don't know, what the arborist told me is he said you get a water truck and you come by and you water them at a regular interval, and then make sure that they water is watered properly. I can't say what exactly has to be done, but the arborist made it very clear that what we have is not going to do it. So I would be worried about saying, okay, well, you guys didn't take care of these trees and they died, not our fault, your fault. And that's where I draw the line. So.
I think we make them aware of the concerns specifically with the irrigation system and everything else. They should not be shocked if something happens down the road, if they have to come around and either replace trees or repair water lines at their expense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's what we're going for.
I can't speak for the other members up here, but you have my support as a resident of Wesley Chapel. That you should be doing exactly the right thing. You have my support.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will keep you covered. You've been supportive so far. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. We appreciate that. All right, so that leads to the volunteer appreciation event. So we talked about previously, in the past, the village has done like an annual advance retreat. And we talked about instead of doing, since there were multiple opportunities for participant or resident input during the comprehensive plan process, we talked about doing a volunteer appreciation event
instead this year for boards and committees. I have spoken with, I like the idea if council is supportive of doing it locally. And I did talk with the owner of Savita's about the potential of hosting a volunteer appreciation event for boards and committees at the restaurant. He doesn't charge to rent the restaurant. He just has a minimum of, you have to spend at least a minimum of $750, which if we have roughly, forget what I counted, Cheryl, was it 30?
About 30. Yeah.
How many?
30, I thought.
Yeah, around 30 people. That should be a very easy meet. And we could have a set menu. We could ask people to RSVP so we have a count, and they could, obviously the village could not pay for alcohol. If people want to have alcohol, they can have the bar open. He is closed on Monday night, so Monday night would be a good potential date. I just didn't know if council wanted to move forward with this idea or not.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think it's a great idea too, but when we were having our catered dinner just last week for council and staff, I was wondering why we didn't just go ahead then in that kind of environment and invite the planning board and Parks and Rec and the communication committee and just have one big party and maybe have it out here instead of just in the conference room. We didn't necessarily have to do this elaborate meal, but you could set up tables and chairs and just have a much bigger Christmas event instead of just the right staff.
Don't think anybody thought about it. We just talked about having an event not around the holiday season. That was so busy.
And then there's always been something for the traditional for council and staff. So maybe something to consider next year.
Absolutely.
I like the idea that it could be at Savita's and, that there's that opportunity for them all to be together and to mingle or something, I think that would be nice.
Like the spirit of community building and relationship building.
And we give a business.
Will they open on a night that they're closed?
They would prefer to do it on a night that they're closed. Yeah. That way it
Aren't
can
they open every
just
night?
Not Monday night.
Oh, okay. So
be,
good.
yeah, it would just be the village on that Monday night.
Okay.
Was it January 30th?
So they could do it as early as January, end of January. That's the last Monday. We're lucky that's a month that has 5 Mondays, I think. So we could do it the last Monday would not interfere with council or the planning board or communication. So council would like to proceed. Is everybody available that day?
Sure.
I think we should send it out to the planning board, communication board, and Parks and Rec committee, see how they feel about it, and if we get at least a positive response, move forward.
Well, we are.
Yeah. I mean, none of them have a meeting
Yeah.
for the rest of the year, and I'm sure we would like some sort of more advanced thing, and then being on Monday, we have committee meetings on 3 Mondays.
So it's January 30th.
Mm-hmm.
10 weeks there.
It's a Monday.
Monday.
So,
It's the 5th Monday of the month.
and I mean, you're not going to get everybody. It's just the nature
No,
of
but
the
you can't pick a
beast.
date when everybody can come, or you wouldn't have a date,
I think that's before things start to get busy again, before like sports and other activities ramp up. Gives people a month in advance to reserve their calendar for that day. 6 or 7, 6:30, I don't know.
Dinner time. Is there a reason why you want to do it at the restaurant versus doing it here at the hall?
Yeah, just so we don't have to clean it up. It's all there, and if people want alcohol, that option is there.
Well, doing it here, you take the alcohol out of the equation.
Yeah, but if it's there, people buy their own.
And then Savita's make more money for the local business. I don't want to have to deal with the hassle
I
of
don't
cleaning
either,
up, and
no.
you can't eat it here, and
Then they've got to bring everything over. I'd rather just go there. I think that'd be easier for everybody. Plus, it's more special when you can go to someplace, you know.
For this many people.
Yeah. It's going to cost no different. The cost isn't going to be any different. The meals, we're
It
not
might actually cost more if they're bringing over
Yeah.
food for 30 people here. So with council's blessing, I will reach out to Lincoln again, and I'll send up, once I confirm with Lincoln, I can have Cheryl send out, save the date to boards and committees, and get them all rolling on that.
Yeah, the food you gave us last week was awesome.
Yeah.
Salmon and chicken and all veggies. It's awesome. And especially the desserts.
Yeah, I really like supporting the local business.
Would it be buffet or would it be served on plate?
I think what he talked about was we would have like a menu for the night and people would pick like their salad, their entree.
Either way.
But I'll talk with him again and I'll send council an update after I talk to him.
We have budget for that?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's a budget for the retreat
2,500.
and it's
2,500.
Retreat's a different
2,500.
animal. Retreat is more for the public versus volunteers and staff.
But every retreat I ever went to, it was all boards and committees and sprinkling of maybe 2 or 3 people that were not boards and committees. Again, this would be not a retreat or a dance, but a volunteer appreciation of that.
And I do think, like you said, we have multiple opportunities throughout the year for the public to participate in these. And if in 2023 we're doing our celebration event and other stuff, there's always another opportunity for input. So I feel good about doing something just for the volunteers.
You know, it'd be really cool if we could come up with some sort of, you know, like we were talking about the ink pens or the mugs or something and give them out to all the folks at that event.
25th anniversary.
Yeah, 25th anniversary ink pen or 25th anniversary T-shirt. Or,
Yeah.
I like pens. I'm sorry.
I have someone give you if you need some more.
Huh?
I said, I have someone can give you if you need some more. They just seek to multiply.
So I'll, with council's permission, I'll confirm with Lincoln and get the ball rolling. You'll all just write that date on your calendar for June 30th at, y'all said 6:30.
Dinner time.
I will send you an update as soon as I have one. Okay. Western Union Municipal Alliance update. David, do you have anything to share?
Other than the municipality reports, the whole business was pretty much discussions on ETJ with the municipalities that are pursuing that. They're drafting legal language and also trying to take into account property rights, owners' property rights. The interesting thing was nothing officially has been submitted yet, and there's already residents within some of those municipalities that are talking about the D word, de-annexation. So,
Have you gotten any feedback with the new makeup of the county commissioners?
No.
If this is going to be supported or not?
This was before they were sworn in. So, no feedback at all yet.
Because they've already fired the county manager.
No.
They swore him in, and then they fired 5 minutes later.
Right. As far as new business, Stallings is already 70% complete with their 2050 plan. And the reason that they're not complete is because of sewer issues. They are, like you said, basically their economic development had stalled until something was put in place to provide more sewer. They are, and all 3 of the items under new business were items that were just thrown out for discussion. I mean, nothing officially has started, but they're looking at ways that maybe the municipalities that are part of the alliance can join together to approach the county to help in some way. Again, very early on in the discussions, and they're just looking for options to try to get some specifics as far as, when we're going to see something move. They brought up the 12 Mile Creek plant. It's still not been funded yet, even though they've been talking about it for a few years. So, and after we get that, at least some attention brought to it, we're looking to do that. I can't remember who it was. One of the members had said that I think there was a young girl that had disappeared for some time in Raleigh the month before, and talking with their contract deputy, I think it was Mark, I think it was Joe, said that he knew this family, and he said that that the family said, I wish there was some way that communications could have gotten out. You see the communications on the interstate about missing child and all that. He said that he wished there was some way that they could have gotten that out to expedite finding the child. And he mentioned that, I think it was Joe, the Mayor Martin, he had mentioned that to his contract deputy. He was like, well, Union County has that.
Amber Alert.
Yeah.
Code Red, I think is what they call it. The Amber Alert. It's not in use, but
I get Amber Alerts on my phone all the time.
Across the television,
And silver alerts.
little things across the TV, and when you watch the TV, all of a sudden it's beeping because there's an Amber Alert, missing child.
But they might not be counting, it might be state.
that may be state, not county. But again, they're looking to meet with the Union County Sheriff's Office to make sure that is in place. And if there's anything within the county that needs a quick alert, especially since we have the facilities available to get that activated. And then the third thing was NCDOT. We're all concerned about the municipalities being charged with overruns, at some point, the municipalities feel like that this needs to be something that's brought before the state. So there's talks about jointly getting some type of language together so that we can go to the county first to say, hey, we need attention. We've got to get something started in order for them in turn to move on to the state.
Well, circling back to the county commissioners, when you had meetings where county commissioners showed up, it was usually David Williams and Richard Helms. Did you ever get Stoney or any of the other county commissioners to attend any of those meetings?
I think Gary came to one and Dennis came to a couple.
With the change in the makeup, I would try to reach out to Richard or David and try to figure out whether that support for the municipalities is still favorable. So you're not spinning your wheels moving forward.
Anything else, David?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. In the CRPTO line item, we do need to appoint a delegate. Lori, do you want to serve, or anybody else who wants to join if the CRPTO delegate?
Do we have an alternate?
It's me.
Because it was Jan.
It was Jan before.
Okay, good.
That's why it's me by default. Any takers?
Are you okay to continue, Laura?
I am happy to share it with someone else. It was really no issue when all the meetings were virtual, but now it's an hour trip each way for a meeting that lasts about an hour, and no action is taken, or no votes taken every time. And it really doesn't matter if we vote or not, as long as Charlotte's represented, because of the way the makeup of the committee's done. I can continue.
I can tell you that
I don't take all the meetings.
I was a CRTPO rep when I first got on council, and I talked with some of the previous reps and asked them what to expect before I started one of these meetings. I said, well, food's really good. Other than that, I didn't see it very much.
That's good. Very different company than I went to. It was a nasty old sandwich.
They said the food was good, but as far as what came out of those meetings was very, very good.
What are the meetings?
The the third Wednesday at 6.
They used to
And
meet in some
then
country.
sometimes have education sessions, and since they've gone back in person, they haven't had any education sessions. Which I found helpful. I found they were informative. And like I said, they were virtual. I attended all the education sessions. There was some joint sessions with like the Gaston board or some other things that have been done. You know, it's informative, but it's not action-packed by any stretch as far as pace of activity or anything else. Because they'll tell you what they're going to tell you, then the next thing they'll tell you again, they're going to tell you, and then they'll tell you that the technical committee approved it, and then you'll vote on it the next month. You know, it's that kind of pace. And frankly, I feel good because we do have a technical committee who are credentialed people for the most part who know what they're doing as opposed to elected officials to actually vet things and make sure they're all right. So, and everything's online, so it's streamed on Facebook. And I think you can watch the recorded sessions if you want to give a feel for what they are.
But being on the committee, they encourage you to be there in person.
Yeah, there is no mixed session. So with the pandemic, we went totally virtual. We changed the bylaws to reflect that we could be virtual or in person. When the new chair took over, he was very adamant to have everything in person, and because it's really doing a hybrid meeting where some people are in person, some people are on remote, is very difficult for the staff to manage.
Well, I'm more than in favor for you to continue if you would like to. However, I'm on the road all the time. I've been in Charlotte one night a week, or one night a month. It's not a major ordeal. Secondly, WUMA looking to be more involved, or at least have more communications with NCDOT. Hearing all those old design. You remember there was a television show called Let's Make a Deal?
Yes.
Monty Hall? Let's Make a Deal.
They still do that show. It's a different person.
If you're willing to take on being the liaison to the planning board, I'll be more than willing to take on carpet. Yeah. Door 1, door 2, or door 3.
No, I think your logic about being more involved in the NCDOT stuff with the things going on with WUMA makes good sense. It's informative, it's educational.
Okay.
And like I said, you can go out there and look. So if you want to look before you fully commit, that's fine too. But I can do the way.
So, I have to appoint somebody today.
Yeah, they wanted that commitment tonight, yes.
You can always,
You're back.
yeah.
There's some forms you have to fill out.
You do have to do a financial statement.
Well, that should be easy.
Zero.
Yeah, where you have to write down your things and everything and submit it every year. And the first year, they said, we have to talk to you. And I was like, I don't understand. And it's because my former employer, who I'm still on Stockton, relocated their headquarters to Charlotte. And so that I would have now been in their realm of just, power to make decisions should they come before the board. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were here. So they didn't have to talk to me because I'm too poor.
Well, so that does raise a question. Would there be a conflict if I own a construction company that are affected by whether roads are in or not?
Ooh.
The-
I knew about that.
This all arose because there was some implication in certain communities that members of the TACs for the MPOs were voting in favor of projects to prioritize that would intersect with their land holdings primarily. That was where a lot of the requirements for MPO, and it used to even extend to MPO assigned local government employees. They took that out because everybody's refusing to do it. Are you supplying like bridge girders
Nothing civil, but we are with vertical construction
That benefits from development.
yes, yeah.
But not necessarily.
But you're not the
construction
developer.
itself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But you're not the developer.
No. No. Our clients are GCs that are hired by the developer. Never mind the way.
That seems far
Right.
to me.
It's-
But
It's
it's also a step removed from here, right? I mean, in that,
Yeah.
you know,
I think if you're concerned, it's not necessarily that there could be a conflict. It's the potential for the appearance of a conflict is, and so somebody could seize it. Well, David's in the construction industry, and build a new interstate going out here, and that toll road, he must be, getting something out. I don't know. It's up to you.
well, I guess it probably also depends on what that organization's rules are, right? I mean, because it's that organization's ethics rules that govern whether or not you would have a conflict, not Wesley Chapel's, right?
Yeah.
If I'm thinking about it, right, because you're sitting on a organization that's has designated representatives from various people, but I assume they have their own rules. So my hunch is what you're talking about doesn't violate whatever rules they have in place, if they have them at all.
But there could be.
I don't think what you're talking about also, like, for example, let's say here's a specific example where if a matter came before the village, it might be a problem for you that you might recuse yourself from, would be if your company had a contract with the GC who was under contract with the developer for a project that involved a road widening or a bridge or whatever, and that was up, then that would, I think, potentially be a problem. But here you're talking about policy stuff at one level, specific projects at certain levels. So could it be a situation where a specific thing might come up that you might have to disclose what's going on and what your relationships are to the potential project? Potentially. But I would say it's not an issue.
No. Well, unless we build 300 unit or 300 plus unit apartment projects in Wesley Chapel, I won't have that conflict. But
You'll be dead because they'll run you.
I don't think it'd be a problem either. I mean, if that's something you want to do.
I mean, just in an effort to help Lori out to keep her from having to deal with Charlotte traffic if she doesn't have to. But I don't want there to be any problems with my vocation serving on that committee.
There's a wide variety of people of elected officials that serve on the MPO board. Like I said, this really arose from the implication that there were people voting on prioritizing or approving road projects that would benefit their personal, often, land holdings all across the state. It used to be a pretty good deal. You get on the MPO board and you get your road projects. There's a little example over in Gaston County, if you recall.
Isn't Ron the Waxaw rep? And isn't he a developer?
So there is an ethics, awareness, and conflict of interest reminder at the beginning of
Every meeting.
And I was looking to see if it wrote out what that says, what Neil said. And it just said, Mr. Burke read the ethics, awareness, and conflict of interest reminder. So I was looking to see if I could find that verbiage by putting.
But again, I think you're talking more about you might have your company might get a general benefit from certain improvements that could help the construction and development industry. That wouldn't be a conflict for somebody coming in front of the village council, so I can't imagine it's a conflict for that.
Yeah.
In the worst case, you can say, I think if it's a voting issue, I think you just say, I think vote.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry, I didn't find the actual verbiage.
So I will appoint David Boyce to be our CRPTO representative.
And you'll stay on as alternate? Okay.
Yeah.
do you need to make a motion about Lori serving as planning board person?
I thought Deb was the other one that was the planning board.
But we have to take turns. Share the love.
I thought I was communications. I didn't realize I was planning board.
Oh, okay, maybe you weren't. Maybe I made that up.
You both expressed them.
We haven't been to the planning board meeting.
All right, so that leads us into our closed sessions.
Can we do council comments and then go into closed session?
Anybody want to go first?
I don't have anything to say.
Let's go ahead and do Merry Christmas.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say, everybody that's traveling or anything over the holidays, safe travels, be aware that everybody that's driving on the road other than you is completely idiot, so watch out for yourselves.
I got one comment that's kind of a misstep and an apology to Cheryl. After our last meeting, when she announced her retirement, I didn't realize that she was asking for a closed session. And I spoke to someone the next day and stuck my foot in my mouth and said something about it. So I apologize for that.
Thank you.